Prince Street is brought to you by Dean & DeLuca, purveyors of the finest food since 1977. With over 40 stores around the world, Dean & DeLuca curates the best ingredients for life. Preparation. Before I send out invitations, there's always this idea. It comes in two parts. It's a map, actually, your typical point A to point B. I will have you over, that's A. And I will thrill you with what I've gathered, B. But there's major work to do between A and B. For one, there's the psychology of guests. Who are you, and what do you need? What can I give you? Then, a million other thoughts follow. Which places have which ingredients, and will the Sicilian olive oil work in the salad dressing, or must it be that French kind? And how much time do I have, and how much time do any of us have? And when did I become Mrs. Dalloway, anyway? Preparation is that kind of thinking and doing. Then, it's thinking more, doing more. Preparation is the very beginning. It's where we start. It's where we're starting. You're already invited. Get comfortable. Welcome to Prince Street.
Thank you for joining us on this, our very first episode. I'm your host, Howie Kahn, and that was the spirit of Prince Street. Sort of our ghost in the machine. A ghost with a very nice voice.
Thanks, Howie.
Every month we'll bring you stories about people and food, organized around a theme we can all relate to, in cooking and in life. This month, it's preparation. Ivan Orkin, the ramen master, tells us about preparing for his next culinary challenge. Actor Griffin Dunne talks to people who are so prepared, it's their motto, Semper Paratus, the U.S. Coast Guard. And filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola shares a few cooking secrets with novelist Jay McInerney. That and more, coming right up. Umber Ahmad is a Pakistani-American businesswoman who is in the process of changing her life through food. She sat down with our correspondent Sierra Tishgart, a journalist for New York Magazine and CBS This Morning, to tell us about Mazadar, her new bakery opening in the West Village on May 1st. Umber's baking is extraordinary for her use of Middle Eastern flavors, like orange blossom water, Jordanian za'atar, and cardamom.
My family is originally from Pakistan, and they emigrated to the U.S. Before I was born. So I grew up in northern Michigan. Most everybody in our town was blonde. They were Swedish or Finnish. Very few people, well, no one looked like me.
And what are your early memories of food?
So my mom is an amazing, amazing chef. I remember as a child coming home one day, and I had my best childhood friend with me, Heidi Schwint. She lived down the street. And I said to my mom, I said, "What's for snack?" And my mom said, "Oh, I made scallops." And I thought to myself, why do we have to be the weird people on the block? Why can't we just have Little Debbie snacks or Cheetos or whatever? And my mom's like, no, it's called coquille Saint-Jacques, and it's an absolutely delicious dish, and I really want you guys to try it. So, of course, Heidi was thrilled because she gets hot dogs and beans and all of those things at home. She doesn't get scallops. And so it was that moment at which I was kind of embarrassed to be who we were. And then it flipped. It flipped a few years later when we had a bake sale at school, and everybody's mothers were bringing brownies that came out of a box and chocolate chip cookies that you sliced from the refrigerator. And my mother made a huge container of baklava. And I remember running down the hall and putting it into the cafeteria and running away because I didn't want anyone to see me that I brought the weird food to school. And little did I know at the end of the bake sale, ours sold first. And my mother put a piece of tape on the bottom of the container with my name on it so that everybody would know to whom to return the container. So my whole, trying to hide and not own up to the baklava was a lost cause.
I know you became very interested in public health and went down that path.
I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And as I finished university, my father said to me, I know you want to be a doctor, but I just think you should try and think about other things. And in doing so, I went into investment banking.
Which eventually led you to Tom Colicchio.
Which eventually led me to Tom Colicchio.
Which is my favorite story.
Tom Colicchio is a world-renowned chef and restaurateur and is the founder and head judge of Top Chef on Bravo. Tom became a client of ours in the idea that we were helping him think through the restructuring of his company. And one day he found out that I made food, that I liked to bake for my friends. He was told by a mutual friend of ours that I made this amazing chocolate cake. So I went in the next meeting and Tom looked at me and he said, "I heard you make food." And he said, "Where's my cake?" And I said, was I meant to bring you cake? I'm confused. And he said, no, I want to try your food. And I just had this visceral reaction of, no, absolutely not. Like, who would do that? Who's crazy enough in this world to make Tom Colicchio food? I always say it's like bringing a prayer book to the Pope. Tom looked at me and he goes, "I really want to try it." And then he said, no one ever really cooks for me. So I said, okay. So I spent the next few days going through this process of just baking everything that I knew how to make. And I didn't really thought that much about it. And one day, I think it was the last day, and I made biscuits. And my apartment was 5 blocks from his office. So they were hot. I put them in this towel and I ran to his office because I want him to have warm biscuits. So I get the warm biscuits to his office. He eats a couple bites and he pushes it aside and he goes, "Well, what do you want to do with this?" And I thought he meant the leftovers. I was like, "Well, do you want me to throw them away? Do you want me to give them to somebody?" And he goes, "Oh, what do you want to do with this?" And I looked at him and just instinctually I said, "I want to do for us what I've always done for everybody else, which is to help build a sustainable legacy brand in the luxury space. And let's do it with the form of pastry." I remember once, years before that, thinking to myself, gosh, wouldn't it be fun to make a living doing something that you really love to do? And I was making cookies. And I knew in a really crowded, competitive space like food, it's not enough to just have a great recipe. You have to have other components to it. Having spent so many years in the business world, I also understood that you had to create a strategic advantage for yourself in order to reduce the risk of failure. I knew at that moment that Tom was one of the ways in which I could do that. Baking for me was an opportunity to exercise a different muscle. There's nothing more intimate in the world than creating something with your own hands and giving it to someone else, having them put that into their body and changing the way that they live their lives. I believe that very strongly.
From the outside, it looks like, oh, you maybe changed industries, but I think you've really built upon your experiences. How did your financial background prepare you then to craft this business strategy?
Very often when people look at me, they think I blacked out one day and woke up in the kitchen. And that's absolutely not the case. 90% of all restaurants and food businesses in New York City fail within 1 year of opening. And I was committed and determined not to be that statistic. And I did that by starting my entire business online and working with wholesale accounts, working with a very large airline. We work with JetBlue, and creating this community of ardent followers of our brand well before the first doors even open.
With the first store about to open, not to get ahead of ourselves, but how many stores would you like, and what is the maybe 5-year plan?
The idea is we want to continue to grow the business that we have, which is an online business. On the retail side, we hope to, in the next 5 years, probably have between 8 and 10 stores. And ultimately, the idea is for this to become part of a larger conglomerate. I don't intend to own this business forever. I want this to live beyond me, to create something that has all the good parts of you, but it allows you to live on into perpetuity, understanding that it needs to live on without you at some point.
I asked Umber what makes her chocolate cake, called the Devil in Ganache, so incredible. She'd only revealed 2 secret ingredients: brewed coffee and buttermilk. For a complete surprise recipe from Umber, go to livefromprincestreet.com.
Where are you, Griffin?
I'm on the deck of the U.S. Coast Guard Sailfish. It's so good cold.
Griffin Dunne has appeared in over 40 films, from After Hours to Dallas Buyers Club. He is also a director and producer for film and television. On Prince Street, Griffin searches for the best food stories in unexpected places.
Hi, I'm Griffin Dunne, and this is Love Your Work. We in show folk have this expression, love your work. It's something that maybe 2 actors, if they run into each other in an airport and they don't know each other and they're strapped for things to say, we just go, love your work, whether we mean it or not. This show is called Love Your Work, and this time I mean it. I get to think up the greatest jobs, whose work I really do love, and I get to go talk to them. I love this particular branch of military service, the Coast Guard. Always been fascinated by them. They're like the firemen to the police. They're just beyond reproach. They rescue, they save lives. They protect the harbors of New York. And they eat really well. I am here with Commanding Officer Danny Piaz. Tell us, you've got a cook on board.
Yes, I do.
How good is he?
Phenomenal.
Really?
The cook is the backbone of the ship for morale. We have 3 meals a day that he's responsible for, 11 people on board. So he's cooking 33 meals a day, which you can imagine. You'll go down and see the galley. It's not a big work area. 33 meals a day is very tough, but he does a phenomenal job of doing it.
Let's head to the galley. There's a cook I'd like to meet. Hey guys, I'm Griffin.
Nice to meet you. FS2 Bowler, Mike.
Nice to call you Mike.
Yes.
What's that?
That is some donut dough I made this morning.
That's what I was hoping you'd say. What kind of donut?
We're just gonna do cream-filled donuts with the glaze. Yep.
When you're reporting for duty on a ship, your first meal, I would imagine, is very important, setting the bar.
That's right.
What's your go-to meal?
My go-to meal. Today's a good meal. Prime rib, you can't go wrong there.
Captain Danny said you have a pretty good budget for the food, for the ship.
Yes,
for the
yeah,
shopping.
it's a great budget. It really is cool to have the money to pretty much make whatever you want.
And you go in the grocery store
I'll
with a
Oh yeah.
shopping cart and just...
Like 7 shopping carts.
7.
Yeah.
They must be really excited when they see you coming.
Yeah, or they dread it.
How do you vary the meals pertaining to the weather? Like if it's just bitterly cold, high wind gales and the boat is rocking a lot.
In the wintertime, if it's cold out, I definitely incorporate hot soup into every single meal.
People in the Coast Guard, do they still get seasick?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if people are sick, usually like, cold cut sandwiches, something more simple. You're not going to go like ethnic Indian on them in that situation. Yeah.
That would be downright cruel of you.
Right, exactly. I'm going to put this dough in the engine room to rise.
Oh, we're going to the boiler room.
We are, yeah, the engine room.
Yeah.
So when we go back there, it's very loud. You got to have ear protection.
All right.
You want your moisture and some heat to make it rise. But this is actually done rising, so I'm going to roll it out and cut our donuts.
I heard somewhere that the galley is actually considered the most dangerous part of a ship.
It can be, especially in heavier seas. You have a lot of hot water. You got hot surfaces. You're using sharp knives, preparing meals.
I don't think many people would think, I want to join the Coast Guard to learn to become a great cook.
I think the Coast Guard is a really cool opportunity that a lot of people don't know about. Right out of culinary school, you're going to work at a restaurant where they're going to tell you what to do. But here, I'm essentially running my own restaurant. I get to set my own menus, purchase my own food. I have a great budget to work with and, a lot of freedom to do whatever I want. I would definitely recommend this route if you enjoy cooking.
Would you like to try driving the ship for a bit, sir?
Sure.
Autopilot is the orange button.
We're not doing that.
This is manual steering right here.
All right, here we go. So to hit the maximum speed, though, I'd hold this down and just wait till it catches up.
Yes, sir.
And we can't do that now.
Right now we have some boats coming up in front of us.
All right, not a problem. So I was just looking at the donuts being prepared and then the Cobb salad and the prime rib. When are we eating?
I'm hoping the filming will wrap up so I could eat it.
Hey, let's do it. Let's end this thing.
Cheers.
These are incredible. Love your work. This is my third one.
Yum.
I hear these donuts are really good. Head to our website for Chef Mike's special cream-filled donut recipe and to watch Griffin Dunne navigate the high seas.
So we're making pizza at Ivan Ramen.
We are. We're going to be making a classic New York slice shop with a real Italian bent to it.
That's Ivan Orkin and Eden Grinshpan. Ivan is best known for his incredible ramen, but he's about to open his first New York City pizzeria. And you might remember Eden from her cooking channel show Eden Eats. Now, on Prince Street, she takes us inside the kitchen of a great local restaurant to meet the chef and cook together. This month, it's Ivan Ramen on Manhattan's Lower East Side. We caught up with them in a cab for this segment of Eden Eats NYC.
I fell in love with Japan as a teenager, working in a sushi bar as just a kid dishwasher.
Here in New York?
Here in Long Island. And then when I went to college, I decided I wanted to study Japanese, but couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do. After a few sort of false starts, I really realized that I wanted to be a cook. Mm-hmm. I moved back to Japan in 2003, this time with my wife and my children. After sitting around for a couple of years, taking care of the kids while my wife worked, I decided it was time to, get a job, really. And I was eating tons of ramen at the time, and my wife kept suggesting to open a ramen shop, and I kept saying how wacky I thought that was.
And especially like for a foreigner to come to Japan and open up a ramen shop, were you really nervous?
The short answer is yes, of course. But, I see restaurant as sales. Mm-hmm. You get that person in the seat and you say, okay, listen, I'm going to give you a bowl of ramen, and I know it's a white dude giving it to you, so you're already skeptical as hell. And that's the truth. It happened hundreds of times where people would walk in, they would slide. I had these little cheap aluminum sliding doors, and they would slide it open, but they were like foggy mirror windows. You couldn't really see in that clearly. So they would open the door and they would poke their head in, and my shop looked like any traditional ramen shop. And they would look at me behind the counter and they'd be like, oh, and I had a lot of people kind of walk back out or feel like, oh, they're too polite to leave now, but they're kind of screwed because they're going to have to eat a white guy's ramen. But in a way, I think in my competitive nature, I found that moment always to be very exciting because I really like people. I really believe in my food. And for me, every time that happened, I was like, yeah, and not like angry f*** you feeling. It was more like, oh my God, this is so exciting. I'm going to convince this person that my food is delicious and that I can take care of them and they could feel really safe and good in my shop, and this could become their shop.
And you got a really loyal following. Like you did well that you opened up another location in Japan.
No, that first year, I was voted Rookie of the Year and Best Shio Ramen in Tokyo,
That's insane.
By the top ramen magazine, and I had a lot of really great experiences. And to add to that, I've really done all this. I've started describing this story as more of an anthropological adventure than anything, because it wasn't like I came to Japan to open a ramen shop. I came to Japan because I love Japan so much, and I wanted to sort of figure out how to have just a great life there with my family. And it was just a fabulous experience. It was really, really special.
Okay, so why pizza?
I am old enough to remember when, most pizzerias sold slices. For $3, you got a really good slice. And that sort of started to disappear a little bit. You have your dollar slice shops now, and they're very poor quality. It's not delicious food, it's junk.
And the slice, that sounds like that's a very New York thing, like going and getting a slice.
Yeah, going and getting a delicious slice, getting 2 slices and a Coke. And
that's like your childhood. When you think of that,
that's such my childhood. Of course, that was 50 cents.
Well, then why don't you make your slices 50 cents? I'm kidding. Bring it back to your childhood, Ivan. I'm playing.
I wouldn't be able to afford it. All right, this is fine. Thank you.
After Ivan and Eden go shopping, we'll be back with Francis Ford Coppola, Pavia Rosati, and more. Don't go away.
We're shopping at Dean and DeLuca right now.
I've been coming here maybe almost since it opened. A long time ago.
So how old does that make you, Ivan?
It makes me older than you. It's all right, so we're making pizza, but we're standing in front of the candy, which is where I always used to stop.
Well, this is probably one of the most difficult things to do ever, is to walk through the store and to not want to buy everything. So are there a lot of ingredients here that you need for your pizza?
Well, the pizza's it's a 3-day rise, and I made it on Sunday, and it's, it's kind of ready to go.
Are you just doing traditional toppings?
I was thinking of doing a bacon and onion. That's my favorite, and it's really good.
Nice.
And it really works, and it's super tasty.
So we can get the bacon here then?
Yeah, we can get the bacon here. Sure. We can get some fresh mozzarella if they have it.
I like it.
We can get some pecorino romano if they got it.
So we're looking today for some cheese for pizza that Ivan's going to be making in his new shop.
Okay, so you definitely chose the right cheeses. We have fresh mozzarella coming in every day, so you can shred up the mozzarella or slice it into little circles and place that on the pizza.
Right.
And it's always good to grate Romano, even like our Parmesan Reggiano. It's a 2-year. If you're trying to go a little bit outside the box.
I think we'll stay inside the box.
I think
Okay.
Ivan wants to stay inside the box
Yeah.
today.
No, you're
Yeah, I'll
definitely...
grab a Parmesan. We'll grab a Parmesan.
Yeah.
We'll have one. And
Yeah. You can
Just in case. Okay, so Ivan, are you ready to?
I'm ready.
Are you ready to start cooking?
Yeah, we got a little overwhelmed, didn't we?
How can you not get overwhelmed here? It's like, it's our playground.
Ivan Orkin's first pizzeria opens later this year. If you want to see how he makes pizza dough, check out our website where he cooks with Eden. And if you want to make his ramen at home, his cookbook, Ivan Ramen, is really great. But he told me, don't get scared at how long it takes. 2 to 3 days of preparation, he assures me, is well worth it. Pavia Rosati has been to more cities than I can count. She's a professional traveler and co-founder of the website Fathom. Every month on Prince Street, she'll bring us essential food finds from the road. This time, her discovery, or really her obsession, began years ago in northern Italy.
In Verona, Italy, many years ago, at my cousin Elisa's house. We had come home from school, picked up the kids in the grocery shopping, and were putting things away, and I noticed on the counter she had a bimby.
A bimby?
Imagine 17 kitchen appliances wrapped up in one. The scale, the chopper, like all the things that you need in a kitchen, this machine can do. It weighs, it chops, mixes, grates, steams, kneads, it whisks. There's a display that has recipes. It pretty much does everything except the grocery shopping. I had first seen one in a friend's Michelin star restaurant. Michelin star chefs have access to all kinds of things that we don't have access to. But here, not only did my cousin have one, she told me that everybody in Italy had one of these things.
Wait. Does it make good food?
Yeah. My cousin we made dough for focaccia. She put a bunch of ingredients in, and 5 minutes later, she just put the dough in the pan, popped it into the oven. It was done. The vegetable soup, however, self-contained unit. Put in vegetables and water, and literally a half hour later, we had a beautiful velouté vegetable soup.
I could do that in a pot.
You could do it in a pot. Well, no, you could do it in a pot, plus a cutting board, plus a knife, plus a separate thing to heat the water, plus a. Or you can just take everything, toss it into the bimby, and put your feet up and, listen to a podcast.
So you're saying the bimby is a much better version of me.
Bimby's a better version of me, is what I'm saying. So anyway, I began reaching out to the company, Vorwerk, and Thermomix is the name that it's manufactured under.
Sounds serious.
Yes, well, it's German. They're very serious. It's a family-run company founded in 1883. You're going to think I'm crazy, but I've since come to learn as much as I can about this machine I'm obsessed with.
Many late nights Googling the bimby.
You'd think I'd deny it. In fact, that's sort of true. Okay, so it's sold in 27 countries around the world.
27 countries?
27 countries,
and we're not one of them.
I know. For years, I was like, why not us? In Portugal, they are so obsessed, they buy more bimbis than iPhones over there.
The Portuguese, unbelievable.
Well, they also have access to jamón ibérico, which we don't have easy access to, so the Portuguese maybe know something that we don't know. So years of trying to figure this out, the very nice but incredibly elusive people send me emails telling me, well, if you want to buy one in Italy, you can bring it back, but the voltage is different, so that's a risk we're not prepared to guarantee. And I buy things from all over the world. My refrigerator.
This is your thing.
Oh, God, yeah. If you come to my house, my refrigerator, it may as well be the UN.
I can kind of see the whole UN Security Council meeting in your refrigerator.
Well, yes. I can't even pretend that's not the case. The idea of, if I buy a $20 device and it breaks when I come back, that's fine. But
no
the
risk.
bimby at the time, we're talking, it was about a €600 purchase in 2008. It was significant enough that it gave me pause.
The world economy was crashing around 2008, 2009.
Yes.
Maybe $600 for, a kitchen appliance, maybe too much.
Well, no, it's just, talk about buyer's remorse. You bring it home, you plug it in, it explodes. Well,
Your
what
whole
kind of
kitchen
an
blows
idiot
up.
am I? I'm a better traveler than that. I know better. So let's fast forward. Last fall, my email begins to blow up. The phone begins to ring with mysterious 888 phone numbers that never leave messages.
Who is it?
Thermomix.
Bimby.
Available in America.
Huh.
Finally. Secretary Kerry must have had something to do with this. I'm sure there was a lot of
high-level dealings. Kerry and Angela Merkel talking about
You know what? It was
Bimbys,
like, sorry we're
Thermomixes.
eavesdropping on your phones. Can we please have a bimby?
That's what that was all about. It was really about the bimby.
Listen,
the
I'm
Thermomix.
happy. I'm happy about this.
Merkel.
Merkel.
Ugh.
It all comes back to her. I got to get her recipe. So anyway, it's the TM5. It is the latest and the greatest.
Why haven't you gotten one yet? It's been 6 months. Spring is the perfect time to get your own Thermomix. They did not pay me to say that.
I know. But here's the thing about dreams. Once they can come true, do you really want them? The risk is that I finally get this thing I've been dreaming about for 10 years, and what if it's not all that?
Ooh.
The other problem I have to say is it pretty much costs what a mortgage of a small house would cost.
How much is it?
It's about $1,300.
Okay.
And
maybe our listeners can pool their money together.
No, our sweet listeners can buy their own.
Kickstarter?
Bimby.
Kickstarter for a bimby?
Oh, man.
Kickstart a bimby for Pavia?
I would feel guilty about that.
I wouldn't.
But if it comes with 2 tall Germans who are going to set it up for me and make me focaccia, I don't know. I'm not going to say no to that.
Do you have room for one more?
Cinema as we know it is going to radically change. I mean, I see 12 cameras over here with little movements shuttling film through it, and I see one that doesn't need that over there. And we must realize that the world cinema is going to be, whether you argue and say, no, it'll be 5 years or it'll be 3 years, it will be electronic. It will be electronic, it will be digital, it will bounce off satellites, and it will create the dreams and hallucinations of the future, of the world.
That is Francis Ford Coppola at the 1979 Cannes Film Festival after his premiere of Apocalypse Now. Our correspondent Jay McInerney, wine columnist and author of 11 books, including Bright Lights, Big City and the upcoming Bright Precious Days, had the privilege of sitting down with the 6-time Oscar winner at Inglenook, his stunning vineyard in Rutherford, California.
I'm wondering if at any point your business career gave you a great meal with a great wine, which led to a movie deal, which led to a great project.
I would have to say that in Paris, there was a restaurant. It had originally been a little soup kitchen near Les Halles. I think American film distributors discovered this place. It was called La Mille Louis. There was a tiny kitchen, but the stuff that came out of this kitchen, these unbelievable roasts of lamb and beef and
incredible
chicken,
breast chicken,
the chicken,
snails.
I had never had food quite like that. And I befriended them, and I had my boy's 16th birthday there and my daughter's 15th birthday, and just a few months ago, I took my 99-year-old uncle and all his kids. It's become a family place. There was a period where we were going to possibly have a wedding here, and I wanted to have all that food here, and they all came to the Napa Valley. They stayed with me in my house, the whole crew they closed La Mille Louis down, and they taught me how to do everything.
Really?
To this day, I can do most of what they do, and especially that potato tart that they make. So that I associate that with the movie business, because they were all movie distributors that used to go.
But you cook yourself, don't you?
I like to cook.
Yeah. So you cook a lot at home?
I cook. I pretty much cook for my wife. My wife is a very good cook, but she didn't like to cook, so I sort of like it. So my wife and I live in a little one-bedroom house on top of the mountain in the middle of total wilderness. It's like being Snow White, and the deer and the birds come to see me, and I have no dog because I don't want any pet scaring the animals away. So all the animals come to see me, and they're my friends. You know, my wife and I talk about, oh, gee, when we die, of course we're going to go to heaven, but I hope we're not disappointed.
So what do you like to cook at home?
I can cook pretty much anything. I can cook, of course, Italian food. I learned the way all Italian kids learn, because when I left home and I had no money, and I like to eat, so I was always calling my mother, saying, well, how do you make spaghetti basilico? How do you make braciole? How do you make this? And now my kids do it to me. What's cheaper to just buy ingredients and cook for yourself than to try to go out and eat in those places where college restaurants were. So I learned to cook out of sort of self-defense.
Well, so do you do the traditional Italian Sunday night dinner?
I can make in fact, I did it for my son. Usually that dinner you have at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, and you call it a ragu, which is it's a red meat sauce, which I made very well this time, and usually served with rigatoni. But of course, I can make anything. I make a great roast chicken which I cook at a very high temperature, which is interesting because everyone freaks out. Oh, it's too hot. I said, no, believe me. I've done this before.
Okay, how hot?
Over 5, as hot as I can get it.
Wow. And you keep it that hot?
Yeah, and I put it in there, just put some salt. And I mean, if I have time, I'll stuff the chicken with, some herbs or whatever I have. But normally I just put some olive oil and salt on and put it in the oven at a very high temperature.
And how long do you leave it in?
About an hour and 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I take it out and, I don't do the whole let it get cold and the thing. I just cut it and it's great. It's a very Middle Eastern way of cooking chicken. I can cook a little bit of Chinese food and, I'm very at home with food. So if there's nothing around, I can make something out of whatever's in the refrigerator or one of those kind of.
So you're an intuitive cook. You don't need a cookbook in front of you.
No, and I've invented some wonderful things that I'll never be able to make again because I don't remember what I did.
Are you working on any film or TV projects, or are you leaving that to your kids?
I'm working on. I'm not so interested in the movie business of today, so I'm in a period of a lot of study and experimentation. 100 years ago, there were many visionary types who wrote books about the theater of the future and about dramaturgy and playwriting. None of them realized that the cinema was really part of what was going to be the theater of the future. So I'm studying a lot of those books with an eye to the fact that the movies and now television that has become cinema is really has a legitimate place in this evolution from the play, dramatic writing, and what's different about dramatic writing to, say, writing a novel. So I've become all wrapped up in these books. But I have a lot of theories and that I'd like to put into practice. I'm trying to be honest with myself exactly what it is that I'm doing and where I can do it better. Novel is the same thing. The novel has, gone in spurts of evolution from.
Well, yeah, when I started out, and even when I had my first novel accepted by Random House, it was the conventional wisdom was that the novel was dead. Tom Wolfe was going around saying, novel's dead, new journalism is the newest thing. And my publisher took me out to lunch before the book came out, and he said, look, you've written a great book, but he said, people your generation don't read fiction anymore, and it's unlikely to do much business. And he said, I don't even know if anybody will be writing novels 20 years from now. And happily, he was wrong about that one.
Well, the novel is probably, about 400 or 500 years old.
Yeah.
And there's always a rediscovery of it. Suddenly Flaubert and all these French guys came out, and then you have James Joyce and Virginia Woolf, and it was reinvented again. And, Alain Robbe-Grillet and those guys. So, that keeps happening. It keeps getting reinvented. I don't think any of these forms are dead. No, there's always a new revolution about to happen.
Yeah. Well, how about film?
Well, film is going through an interesting period because it has really merged now what used to be television.
Yeah.
Really, they're both the same form because they're made the same way. It used to be television was electronic. It was a box in your house. Now all movies are made electronic and projected electronic. So, a movie could be under a minute or it could be over 100 hours if it's the Breaking Bad. And there are many new things that are possible that never were possible before, which is what, of course, I'm interested in. So all this talk of something being dead is it's always on the verge of being reborn.
Now it's time for our Madeleine Moment, inspired by the French author Marcel Proust and his passage from Remembrance of Things Past. As the narrator dips a petite Madeleine into his tea, it triggers a powerful emotional journey that takes him back to his childhood.
She sent for one of those squat, plump little cakes called petite madeleines, which look as though they had been molded in the fluted valve of a scallop shell. As soon as I recognized the taste of the piece of madeleine, immediately the old gray house upon the street rose up like a stage set, and with the house, the town, from morning to night, and in all weathers, the square where I used to be sent before lunch, the streets along which I used to run errands, the country roads we took when it was fine. So in that moment, all the flowers in our garden and in neighbor M. Swan's park, and the water lilies on the Vivant, and the good folk of the village and their little dwellings, and the parish church and the whole Cambrai and its surroundings, taking shape and solidity, sprang into being, towns and gardens alike, from my cup of tea.
We all have a food that triggers a powerful memory. Here's this month's Madeleine Moment.
I'm Francis Ford Coppola, and my Madeleine Moment is sinking into a Coney Island hot dog, which I had recently, and it brought back all those wonderful adventures at the original Coney Island, which of course was totally torn down. And it had a ride which was called the steeplechase, which was you get on a horse and it pulled you up on like a roller coaster, and then it would let you go and you'd go around, circumnavigate the entire park. There were many very bizarre rides, the rotating barrels and the huge roulette wheel that you'd get on. And I was very fortunate because my father loved the steeplechase, and on his birthday, every June 11th, he would take us kids. We could have the original hot dogs and do everything we wanted. And to us, it was, I think after Christmas and maybe our own birthdays, it was our favorite. And to this day, June 11th is the day that he took us to Coney Island, and I try to take the grandchildren on his birthday to an amusement park. And all that came back with just sinking into Nathan's hot dog, I guess it was called.
If you have a Madeleine moment, tweet us at prince_street_. And don't forget to use the hashtag Madeleine Moment. That's MADELEINE moment. You might win a $100 gift card to Dean and DeLuca.
If you were a food, what food would you be?
I would be a big cake.
That's it for this month on Prince Street. Thanks so much for joining us. Come back next time when we talk about risk. We'll hear about growing the world's most expensive spice in war-torn Afghanistan, airport food smuggling, and Le Bernardin's Eric Repair will join us to talk about his brand new memoir. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at prince_street_, and check out livefromprincestreet.com for recipes, web extras, and tips from our correspondents.
And be sure to come by Prince Street again next month.
If I were food, I will be buffalo steak. If I were food, I would be a giant macaroni. If I were food, I would be a cupcake.
Prince Street is produced by Elizabeth Robinson, Barry Finkel, Julian Plante, Emily Rubin, Fanny Cohen, Andrew Chugg, and executive produced by Charles Finch, with special help from Whitney Donaldson, Ava Robinson, and Lucia Helenka. Theme music by Dave Brubeck. Brubeck's hard to say. Theme music by Dave Brubeck. See you next month.
Prince Street is brought to you by Dean and DeLuca, purveyors of the finest food since 1977. With over 40 stores around the world, Dean and DeLuca curates the best ingredients for life.